Welcome back, guys. Today we are going to look at VLAN trunking protocol. So, what's VTP or VLAN trunking protocol? Basically, this is a Cisco proprietary, meaning it is not standard and cannot be used in all products. So it's only used in Cisco networking product. That's what we mean by Cisco proprietary. Okay, and VTP makes it possible to make configuration changes on one or more switches and have those changes automatically advertised to all other switches in the same VTP domain. Okay, so what that means is that you can configure VLAN in one switch. Let's say in a network there are 20 switches, and in these 20 switches, when you are doing a normal configuration, you will configure VLANs in all these 20 switches. But when you use a VTP protocol, you only need to configure VLANs in one switch. Okay, and these VLANs will be automatically copied to the other remaining 19 switches. So it's very easier. It makes work very easier. So automatically copies VLANs from one switch to another. Okay, so guys, I hope you understand what VTP means. Okay, so it makes work easier, as just have been said, because you just need to configure VLANs on one switch. Then this VLAN will get automatically updated on other switches in the network. Okay, some switches are configured as VTP servers, while others are configured as VTP clients. Okay, we will understand what VTP server and VTP client means, so don't worry about it. VLAN created on a VTP server switch is automatically advertised to all the switches inside the same VTP domain. Don't worry about VTP domain, we will understand what it means. Okay, having understood what VTP means, let's understand various modes in VTP. The first mode is a VTP client. Okay, a VTP client cannot change its VLAN configuration. Okay, it cannot create or delete VLANs. When you have configured a switch to be in VTP client mode, it cannot create or delete VLANs. Okay, but it can process this VLAN and forward them. Okay, then VTP server mode. When you have configured a switch to be in VTP server mode, this particular switch, you can use it to create or delete VLANs. Okay, okay, and by default switches are in VTP server mode by default. Okay, all switches. So it depends on your configuration that will specify that this switch is in which VTP mode. Okay, then there's another mode that is called transparent mode, and we are not going to look at transparent mode. We are only going to focus on these two modes, client and server mode. So in the below diagram, here are three switches. Which one is configured as VTP server, then the other two are configured as VTP clients. Okay, so let's see what we have next. How to configure VTP on a switch. Before we can configure VTP, there are some requirements that we need to specify. So the first requirement, the switch must be configured as a VTP server or VTP client. Okay, that's the first requirement that you need. Then the VTP domain has to be the same on both switches. Here, a VTP domain simply means that kind of naming that you will use to group your VTPs. You know, let's say in your network there is a GuruTech network. So let's say a VTP domain will be VTP GuruTech. So that's GuruTech will be our domain. Okay, all right. So if present, the VTP domain password has to be the same. Okay, suppose we have a VTP domain password, then that password must be the same on all the switches. Okay, then VTP version have to match in all the switches. Okay, requirements. Then the link between the switches has to be a trunk link. I hope you remember what a trunk link means. If you can't remember it, kindly refer to our previous classes. So guys, after you have fulfilled all these requirements, so you go to the configuration. There are commands that we use to configure VTP on switches. The first command is to specify which domain that kind of VTP you want it to be. Okay, so like this one, VTP domain car. If that kind of domain you want it to be a car, it will be car. For our case, we'll use GTEC. Okay, then you either configure the switch to be in a server or client VTP mode. Okay, so you can use the first one or the second one in one switch. You can't use both of them in one switch. And I said transparent mode we are not going to look at in this class. These are the only commonly used modes that we are going to look at them. So after that one, after you have configured every switch and assign a VTP domain and a mode, you can check the VLAN and you check the VTP status. So guys, let's see all these theories in our practicals. Alright guys, here we are in our packet tracer. I already drew a diagram comprising of 4 switches. One switch has been set as a server and then the 3 other as client. So guys, let's start. We want this switch to be a client, this one a client, this one client, and this center one to be a server. Okay, VTP server, remember, VTP client, remember. So let's start our configuration. We start with which switch? Let's start with the server switch. Come to CLI. Okay, enable config T. I hope you remember these modes. Okay, so the first thing that we said, guys, we said you specify which VTP domain you want that switch to be in. Okay, so and the VTP domain name should be the same in all switches. Okay, so our VTP domain will be GTEC. Okay, hit enter. Good. Then the second command that you should specify is to assign which mode do you want this switch to be, a VTP mode I mean, be it a server or client. And remember, all switches by default are in a server mode, VTP server mode. Okay, so let's set this one as a server VTP server mode. So we'll just write VTP mode server. Okay, hit enter. Alright, as you can see, device mode already VTP server because I said all the switches by default are in VTP server mode. Okay, but alright, so do right to save the configuration. So we have done configuring VTP on our server switch. Let's go to client 1. Enable, I hope remember the modes, config T, then VTP domain. We used GTEC. Okay, hit enter. Alright, then mode, VTP mode client. Okay, hit enter. Alright, do right. We go to VTP client 2. Click there and enable config T. Then VTP, what do we specify here? Domain. domain, which domain did we use? G tech. Okay, remember the domain name should be the same in all the switches. VTP domain, I mean. Okay, alright, so VTP mode should be client. Hit enter, do right. Okay, then this one as our VTP client 3, enable config T, then the VTP domain we use gtech. Okay, then VTP mode we use client. Okay, hit enter and we do right. Okay, so close. Guys, we have done configuring VTP on all the switches. So what we want to do, we said VTP is a method that allows us to configure VLANs in only one switch, but those configuration will be copied automatically to all other switches. Remember, it will make our work very easier because we won't need to configure VLANs on this switch, on this switch, on this switch. Just one, and it will be copied along the switches. Okay, so and the one that we will configure those VLAN to is VTP Server. So let's go to our VTP Server. Click. Okay, let's configure VLANs. VLAN 10, name HR. VLAN 20, name ICT. VLAN 30, name finance. Okay, VLAN 40, name XY. VLAN 50, name ABC. Okay, just like that, and do right to save the configuration. So guys, let's get out of the interface and check the VLAN database. What's the command to check a VLAN database? You just write do show VLAN. Okay, when you are in configuration mode, but when you are in privilege exit mode, you just type show VLAN and hit enter. Okay, as you can see, we have created how many VLANs? 5 VLANs, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, and we have assigned name. Okay, in which switch? A VTP server switch. Okay, so what's remaining is to configure trunk. Remember, a trunk interface is that kind of interface that allows multiple VLANs to pass through. Okay, these VLANs cannot be propagated to other switches if you can't configure trunk interface. So let's go to every switch and configure a trunk interface. Let's start with the center switch. Okay, so in the center switch, the trunk interfaces will be, this will be a trunk interface, this one and this one, because they are connected to switch. Okay, so this one is switch interface FA0/1, then this one FA0/3, then FA0/2. Just hit on that switch, and interface, because there are 3 interfaces, it is 1, 2, 3. Okay, and we want to configure the same parameter on those kind of interfaces. We just type a command, interface range. Okay, FA0/1, 2, 3. This kind of command will set a parameter, the same parameter to which interface? FA0/1, FA0/2, and FA0/3. Okay, alright, hit enter. Then switch port was set, switch port mode trunk. Okay, hit enter. Alright, don't worry about anything and do right. So we have configured trunk, everything on this switch. So let's configure trunk on this switch. Which interface is this one? FA0/1. Come, interface FA0/1. Then switch port mode trunk. Okay, then do right. Do the same to all other switches, those that you have not configured. Trunk interface FA0/1, because I know they were connected to that kind of interface. Switch port mode trunk, hit enter, do right. Okay, then here interface FA0/1, then switch port mode trunk, do right. Okay guys, we have done configuring everything in our documentation. Okay, we have configured trunk interfaces. Okay, we have configured switches to be in VTP server and VTP client, and we have configured the VTP domain name in all switches. And the other thing that we have not specified here, but we have configured, is the VLANs. We have configured the VLANs. So let's test our configuration. Okay, come back to switch packet tracer. Okay, remember, it's only in this switch that we configured the VLANs, and we set this switch to be in VTP server mode, and the whole other remaining switch to be in VTP client mode. And we said a VTP configuring a switch as a server mode and others as client mode. A configuration that will be made in a server mode will be automatically updated or copied to all other client mode. Okay, let's check. Alright, let's hit enter, then exit the interface. Okay, do show VLAN. Guys, see, we didn't configure VLAN on this switch, but there are VLANs in the database. Okay, the same VLANs that we configured in this VTP server are the same VLANs that are here. See, come to this switch also, exit, do show VLAN. See, the same thing. Okay, the VLANs that we configured on VTP server switch has been automatically copied to all these client switches. Okay, exit, then do show VLAN. Okay, see, same thing. So guys, VTP is a very important concept that you can't miss. So guys, what's remaining? Let's check on our documentation. Okay, let's check the VTP status in every switch. Okay, just type show VTP status. Anyways, then let's start with this one. Exit, do show VTP status. See, VTP operating mode is server. Okay, and the domain name is GTH. Okay, alright, so let's go to this command so that we can go very faster. Just I'll highlight like that one, then you copy, come, then let's try this other face switch, then just right paste, just like that, enter. A VTP operating mode is client. Okay, then domain name is GTH, the same, the only difference is client and server. Then this one, The same thing we just do. See, operating mode is VTP client and the domain name is GTH. The same thing you can do to the other switch. Okay, so guys, VTP is a very important concept that you cannot miss. And remember, it's only applicable in Cisco products. It's Cisco proprietary. You can't use it in other products like Huawei, HP, Juniper, and that will mark the end of our today class. Let's meet again tomorrow. Bye and have a nice time.